Hey guys, this is Booligan with Airsoft Retreat, BooliganAirsoft.com and Airsoft Insider Magazine. Today we're going to revisit a gun that I really just briefly put together, briefly did a video on, because I have a lot of questions about some of the parts and techniques that I used on this thing. So we're going to take a little bit closer look at my AAC Honey Badger inspired custom AR build. As you can tell from the last time you saw this, I have made some changes, especially to the front end, to make it look a little bit more like the real gun. So let's go ahead and head to the bench and take a look at exactly what I did to put this thing together. Okay, let's take a closer look at how I built my AAC Honey Badger inspired custom AR. Starting at the back, I wanted to go with something that would have a retractable stock, wires or rods. I would have really liked to go with like an ICS speed stock or the stock that's on the VFC M4 Stinger or the 416C. But this is kind of what I had at my disposal pretty much. It started as an M231 stock, a Matrix M231 stock available at evic.com for about, I want to say, 40 bucks. There is a buffer tube extension that you would use to store a battery, but it wouldn't work with how I wanted to run the stock. Plus it's really long. Thankfully it just unscrews. And what I did, let's go this a little bit. I unscrewed it and I took the base cap, or the end cap that was on there, placed it there, and used that as the spacer for an M4 length buffer tube screw. Otherwise, I didn't really have an option for even mounting it. The screw that it came with was too short for most AEGs. It only barely stuck right there. I'm not sure what that screw was, what they were thinking with that one. So that gave me this base unit here. It gives me two quick detach sling mounts, which makes adding slings very easy, obviously. For the stock unit itself, the M231 stock normally has a little loop of metal. The thing is designed to be used in a tank. It was a port gun, and it doesn't fit the look of what I was going for. So I cut it off about right there. And the problem is when you cut it off, these are then free to rotate, which could cause some problems if you get them misaligned. I then took an Mp5 stock from a JG Mp5, took out the metal arms that were there before, and started dremeling this out a bit just to sort of fit these rods. I didn't have to do a whole lot of work on it, really. Just open it up a little bit here and a little bit on the inside so that they would fit in there at the correct angle. I then applied a bunch of JB Weld on the inside, got them in there, and they're in there pretty damn solid. I don't think that's going anywhere. The stock retains full adjustability, but it is a little stiff, being that I pretty much messed up the alignment of the rods slightly. So next time I will do a little bit more careful job when I'm putting it together. It has a hard time going to the full collapse mode. If I had gone with a different stock unit, this probably wouldn't be an issue, but that's what happens when you homebrew stuff. For the battery compartment, you don't have any room in the back unless you're running a small buffer tube, which I just didn't have room for and didn't have the capabilities of making work. You don't have any room up front. The rail that I went with is way too small to fit something in there, and I hate PEC boxes and little battery foregrips. They're garbage. I don't like them at all. So I went with an ICS speed stock, or excuse me, an ICS ready mag. I'm not talking about. The battery wires get run out of where your bolt catch button normally would go. It just runs out. I had to drill a small hole in the side. And how it works, to get the magazine out, you actually have to push the magazine release, and it pushes this little button that allows it to come out. I've got my wires in there. I could fit a pretty big LiPo or even standard chemistry battery in there. It gets the job done, but it doesn't really slide in there very well. There you go. But once it's in, it's in. You can still change this mag easily just by partially pushing the magazine release. That could come out. For a trigger guard, I went with a Strike Industries Cobra unit. It fits the contour, and I had a spare one, so it filled in a pinch. I would have obviously liked to go with a Magpul K-grip, which is what the real one uses. However, this does not exist for AEGs yet, so I went with the Tango Down unit because it's what was on the gun to begin with. As far as the front end goes, Now, if you saw this gun before, it was running a different front assembly. The rail was the same. It's a Madbull NSR rail, which installed really quite well. The only little quirk is there's a slight height difference. It's about 1 millimeter or 2 shorter on here than it is on the receiver. And I had kind of a similar issue with the VFC that I'm building in that it doesn't quite line up. So it's just, I guess, you know, something that happens with these rails. You may have some misalignment. Before, I was running this outer barrel that is very homebrew, very hacked together, but it was a lot shorter. So it sits right about there, and I was running this mock silencer to give me a length about that long. The thing is it didn't really look the part. It wasn't big enough, and it wasn't really long enough to really look how I wanted. So I ended up going with a 7-inch outer barrel, which strangely enough came off of an ICS M16. You unscrewed the extension on the front that made it M16 length, and it had this perfect 7-inch barrel. I then installed a JBU MSS, which is their modular suppressor system, which has the right kind of rounded front end, and as the name implies, it's modular. So let's say we want to run this thing a little bit shorter. So unscrew that, unscrew the end cap, and there we go. Now we're in business. The thing is much shorter than it normally would be. The only issue with how this mounts is, one, it is not inside the handrail. It's not integrally suppressed, but it does line up really, really well with that. It's also, the trays are upside down just with how mine clocked. It is what it is. But the thing really kind of completes the look, makes it look really, really close to how the real one is. If I can get this threaded up there. I have my inner barrel set to be about right there. So I could now go get away with a longer inner barrel if I wanted. But this thing's kind of shooting just how I like it. Finishing touches on the gun. Said we got KAC style sights, front and rear, and an aim point. Got a lot of people telling me, hey, you idiot, you got to put your aim point further back, or you got to put it on a riser. Well, since I've got these nice little things here where my face sits, very, very low cheek weld, I can actually use this without a riser, and it is just about perfect where it is. So there you go. If you're looking for a way to build your own, you could do it not too hard, just get the right parts. Like I said, I got the stock unit from EVIC along with the rail. The barrel was something I kind of hacked together, but if you find, either you could do a short barrel and a skinny silencer. Depending on the rail kit you're using, that will change all of your settings for that pretty much. But overall, there you go. Pretty easy way to build it for not too much money and have a very unique gun on the field. As you can see, it really wasn't that complicated of a build, mainly just required the right parts, most of which I was able to get through evic.com. So be sure to check out all of my videos on the channel, and of course all of my reviews on BooliganAirsoft.com and Airsoft Retreat. And as always, thanks for watching.